And now here is Pastor Arnold Murray.
Good day to you. God bless you. Say, welcome to the Shepherd's Chapel. Welcome to this family Bible study hour. Ready to get in our Father's Word. Genesis chapter 12. We're going to pick it up with verse 11 here. God has made a covenant with Abram, who will soon be called Abraham. And he was so blessed and so rich that he and Lot will have to part company soon. But they're about to go into Egypt, and where we pick it up here, and it's pretty well self-explanatory. Let's just ask a word of wisdom from our Father. Genesis chapter 12, verse 11, and let's go with it. It reads, "And it came to pass, when he was come near to enter into Egypt, that he said unto Sarai, his wife, Behold now, you look here, I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon." Now, bear in mind, she's 65 years old at this time. And this you can gain, and she was a beautiful woman because at this time there were not the pollutants in the air and so forth and in our foods. Verse 12 to continue. "Therefore, it shall come to pass when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, This is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will save thee alive." For one thing, I want you to see the trust Abram had in Sarai. I want you to see he knows that she's going to stay true to him, even though he's putting her in a precarious position. But we are to be as peaceful as a dove, but wiser than the serpent. So this way, he knows in the time it's going to take them to pass through, exactly because of the famine and so forth. So let's continue on with it. Verse 13, this is what he tells her. "Say, I pray thee, thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee." You're going to save my life, declaring that. Now, most people don't realize it. She was his sister. She was his half-sister. In fact, in other words, Sarai and Abram had the same father, but they had different mothers, okay? The 20th chapter, the 19th verse declares this, and it'll, 12th verse rather, declares that they in fact were half brothers and half brothers and sisters, okay? In the earlier part of replenishing the earth, sometimes this was necessary. And many would say, well, what? Wouldn't that be incest? No. Where is the law against incest? Have you read of it? We know that what it was like to uncover your father's nakedness, that was already a law. But when it was brother and sister half, then we know one thing. We know that God chose Abram and God chose Sarai. He chose them as man and wife. So there need be nothing else said. Verse 14 to continue. And it came to pass that when Abram was come into Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman, that she was very fair. 15, the princes also of Pharaoh saw her and commended her before Pharaoh. And the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. Again, you can see Abram's trust in the woman. 16. And he entreated Abram, that's to say Pharaoh did, well for her sake. And he had sheep and oxen and he-asses and men servants and maid servants and she-asses and camels. I mean, he took Pharaoh took real good care of him, okay? He was rich. Verse 17, and the Lord plagued, the Lord always, when the Lord's in control, he always takes care of business when you've done the best you can do. And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. In other words, this is what you call divine intervention. God intervened because through this must come the family that will produce or bring forth ultimately Messiah. Verse 18, and Pharaoh called Abram and said, what is this that thou hast done unto me? Why didst thou not tell me that she was thy wife? Why didn't you tell me? Well, we kind of know the reason, don't we? 19. Why saidst thou, she is my sister, so I might have taken her to me to wife? Now, therefore, behold thy wife, take her and go thy way. You get on out of here. Go. Verse 20, and Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, and his wife, and all that he had. And I'm sure they probably had some escorts too. They were put on the road. I suppose I want you to see the lesson that if God is in something, that he can take those that could harm us and turn them into a great asset. And even in this case, brought safety and so forth with to a family that were suffering from a famine or were about to. And hey, they did real good. They did real good. But again, I want to emphasize, Abram did not lie. She was his sister also. Okay. Period. Chapter 13, verse 1. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him unto the south. And now they have no children, but this is his nephew. Okay. So they come up, and these are blessed. Our people are always blessed. God said he's blessed, so he was. Verse 2. And Abram was very rich in cattle and silver and in gold. He was probably the first rich man reported in the book of Genesis. 3. And he went on his journeys from the south even to Bethel. This is the house of God where he started from. Not where he started, but where he landed after Ur. Bethel, unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Hai. Hai being ruins, and Bethel, the house of God. Verse 4. Unto the place of the altar which he had made there at the first, and there Abram called on the name of the Lord. That's something you want to always remember, is in obeying God and following God, what does he owe God? Well, God intervened with divine intervention. He's got some thanksgiving to give. He's got some love that he had better throw forth, and at the same time ask for guidance. You see, we're not as sharp sometimes as we think we are. So divine intervention in our lives, and it still happens, maybe not to the degree we have here, but it does. God kicks the rocks out of the road of those that love him occasionally that you never know about. But he brought God left God in the equation, and he called on his name. Verse 5. And Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents, and he had a lot of people. They're both rich. Verse 6, and the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. They were blessed to the point that when you're in a nomad condition, or like even trying to set up camp at Bethel, the house of God. They both have too many animals to graze that area. Somebody's got to leave or give up their wealth, and that's not wise. A wise person knows you've got to increase the acreage. You got to move on to better grazing, all right, for that many stock, that many people. So God's blessings demanded it. You might say, well, why did God bless them so much they have to split company? Lot's not his son, and his son has already been, it has been promised that through him would come the house of Israel. And we thank our Father for that. Verse 7. And there was strife between the herdmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle, and the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelled then in the land. In other words, let's look at these people. There were a few Kenites among the Canaanites, but also the Perizzites. It is believed by most scholars, and I certainly think that part of the second remnant of the Nephilim, the fallen ones, were among the Perizzites. Okay? It means belonging to the village. They sure like their villages. Verse 8. And Abram said unto Lot, let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we be brethren. In other words, let's don't let them fight over grazing rights here. Let's fix it. We're family. Verse 9. Is not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left hand, then I will go to the right. And if thou depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left. Okay? In other words, Abram's giving him his choice. It's his choice to act upon. Verse 10. And Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of Jordan, and that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar. In other words, I mean, this is plush down here. Out here it looks a little more skimpy, a little more deserty, okay, hitting the plain. But boy, there is water and richness. Which way do you think he's going to go? He's not going to give his uncle. His uncle has given him first choice, and he's going to take it. Verse 11, then Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves the one from the other. 12, Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain and pitched his tent toward Sodom. Guess who got the worst end of the deal that will end out is naturally Job, because there is much sin in Sodom and Gomorrah. Verse 13, but the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. So we can certainly see that Lot's choice had some certainly burrs under his blanket here, saddle blanket, and he's got trouble. Verse 14, and the Lord said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him, lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art, northward and southward and eastward and westward. You look all around. 15, for all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed forever. Not for a little while, forever. Far as you can see, it's all yours. 15, and I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth. In other words, I'm going to multiply you to no end, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall thy seed also be numbered. Now wait. think about this. Sarai is barren. They don't have a child. And yet, God is saying, I'm going to multiply you big time. Okay? Verse 17. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it and in the breadth of it, for I will give it unto thee. No charge, paid in full. Everything belongs to God. It's his right to give. 18. Then Abram removed his tent and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre. And it means strength or fatness, so well named, which is in Hebron, which means alliance. And Hebron, you read about it all the time today in the news, and built there an altar unto the Lord. First thing he does, builds that altar and remembers our Father. You know, that's it is wise to learn from the wise. It's wise to learn from the humble before Almighty God. It's always take enough time to thank our Father. You might say, well, I don't really have all that much to be thankful for. Well, do you understand that he created the oxygen that we breathe? Have you ever had it shut off? It's even the air you breathe is something to be thankful for, my friend, because it belongs to him. He created it. He made this planet habitable for our flesh bodies, even though it grieved him that he put us in the flesh. So you've always got something to talk to him about, something to thank him for. Now, we're going into the land of some foreign kings, and the language is also foreign and can be very difficult but to interpret. And there will be places where I will, rather than transliterate it, translate it for you when I feel it's necessary, okay? So let's get into it. We're in a strange land, so expect strange voices after the 10th chapter of Genesis, when God scattered them and made all of different tongues. Chapter 14 and verse 1. And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, that's a keeper of the gods. What a name for a heathen, huh? King of Shinar, Arioch, that's vulnerable, king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer, that's the servant of Lomer, okay, being translated, king of Elam, Elam meaning eternity, okay, and Tidal, the king of nations, great son is his name, okay. So Elasar being oak, and verse 2, that these made war with Bera, king of Sodom. So Bera being son of evil, and maybe he was. I know one thing, I know Lot's in a bad place, okay, because the war is pointed at Sodom, right where Lot pretty well situated. And with Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, splendid of the fathers, meaning Shinab, king of Admah, and Shemeber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, which is Zoar. Nice heathen names. What? We'll be through them here in a little bit. Hang on. 3. All these were joined together in the Vale of Siddim, which is the Salt Sea. They're ready to attack. They're gathered together. They're ready for war. Verse 4. 12 years they served Kedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. No more of this. 5. And in the 14th year came Chedorlaomer and the kings that were with him, and smote the Rephaims in Ashtaroth, Karanaim, and the Zuzims in Ham, and the Emims in Shaveh, Kirathaim. I want you to remember for sure, you know what an Asheroth is, don't you? It's the name of a god, idol of most any kind that of the heathen, all right? But the Rephaims in the Ashtaroth, that's the Rephaim being the fallen offspring of fallen angels, or in part fallen angels, Raph. Well, you got a bad lot here, okay? Verse 6, and the Horites, cavemen, in their Mount Seir unto El Paran, which is by the wilderness. 7, and they returned and came to En Mishpat, which is Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites that dwelt in Hazeron Tamar. I mean, somebody's taking their licks here. Verse 8, and there went out the king of Sodom. This would be where Lot is situated. And the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, the same is Zoar, and they joined battle with them in the vale of Siddim. Verse 9, and Chedorlaomer, the king of Elam, eternity, and with Tidal, king of nations, great son, and Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Shinar being part of Babylon, the back, the shoulder, and Arioch, king of Elazar, 4 kings with 5. Battle time. Verse 10. And the vale of Siddim was full of slime pits, bogs, a mess. And the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell there. And they that remained fled to the mountain. In other words, those that dear Lot had decided to settle among lost the battle. They're no more. And this would be quite a war. You with companion Bibles are rather fortunate, because tables and tablets have been found that speak of this battle. And many might say, well, what does that mean? It means God's word is true, that the remnants have been found. Your companion Bible will aid you in that, as well as history itself. Verse 11, and they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their victuals and went their way. So guess who that includes? Verse 12, and they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, his kin, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. I mean, they took it all, including Lot and his family. He kind of made a bad choice, did he not? Looked real good, turned out not so. 13. And there came one that had escaped and told Abram the Hebrew. This is the first time this word is used, and it simply means from Eber, he who crossed the river, and the river is Euphrates, all right? That's all it means. For he dwelt in the plain of Mamre, the Amorite brother of Eshcol, and brother of Aner, and these were confederate with Abram. They were allies. Verse 14, and when Abram heard that his brother, that's his nephew, was taken captive, he armed his trained servants, born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan, which would be, this number, when we take 3, it means resurrection or divine commitment, okay? And 100, of course, is God's election of grace and the children of promise. And these were. And of course, 18 is bondage, and poor old Lot was indeed in bondage. But I want you to note that that takes a lot of faith in God to send 318 men to rescue your kin when there's armies out there. And I'm going to tell you something. There have been times all through the ages, yours truly having witnessed one of them, where just a few of our people have conquered great multitudes, that is to say, have outfought great multitudes and won. Don't ever discount why. Verse 15. And he divided himself against them, he and his servants, by night, and smote them and pursued them unto Hobah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. I mean, chased them all the way back to Syria. Verse 16. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother Lot, his nephew, and his goods, and the women also, and the people. I mean, these 318 brought back Lot, and restored his goods to him. I guess we could say, why did not Lot defend himself if 318 could? Well, there's a lot more to it than that. Divine intervention by our Father. Also, they made a night attack. While these others, no doubt, are celebrating, they're real easy to put out of their misery when they're asleep and drunk. Okay, 17. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return unto the slaughter of Chedorlaomer, and of the kings that were with him at the valley of Shaveh, which is the king's dale. Went out there to meet him. Hey. Now, there is one thing you always want to give credit for where credit's due, and we're coming to that place right here. Listen carefully. Do not think that 318 men, without the help of God, accomplished all this, okay? So somebody's going to meet them here. Let's see who it is. Verse 18, and Melchizedek, king of Salem, Salem meaning peace, king of peace, brought forth bread and wine. And he was the priest of the Most High God. He had no mother, he had no father, he had no genealogy. He was a priest of the Most High God. What does Melchizedek mean? Melcha is king and Zedek is the just, king of the just, king of the elect. And when he brings forth bread and wine, who is the bread of life and what is wine symbolic of? Is the blood of Christ that he would pay for on that cross to bring healing. His body took the stripes, our bodies get the healing. And the wine brings about forgiveness of our sins, washed away with what he accomplished on that cross, the sacrifice of sacrifices for one and all times, as it is written in Hebrews chapter 10. How fantastic. And as it is written in the great book of St. John, when Jesus himself would say, before Abraham was, I am, he knew Abraham. Well, he met him. It was Christ. The high priest of God. Who is the high priest? Well, have you ever heard of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords? And I can't help but Paul brings it out best in the great book of Hebrews. You're not going to have it, but don't ever forget it. Hebrews chapter 6. And let's go right to 7. Hebrews chapter 7. And verse 1 of that. I'll just read it to you. For this Melchizedek, king of Salem, peace, priest of the Most High God, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him, to whom also Abraham gave a tenth part of all. He tithed to him. First being by interpretation king of righteousness, and after that also king of Salem, which is king of peace. 3. Without father, he wasn't born. Without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life. He didn't die, but made like unto the Son of God. Well, who is the Son of God? Well, it's Jesus. It's Christ. Abideth a priest continually. Now consider how great this man was, unto whom even the patriarch Abraham gave a tenth of the spoils. And of course, Melchizedek was Christ. He wasn't born yet. You got that right. You know, it would be then he would be called Son of Man, but here he's not called Son of Man because he is Melchizedek, the king of the elect, the king of the just. Now, well, I wonder how that 318 won such a great battle, because Christ was with them. Melchizedek was with them. There was divine intervention. This is what makes being a servant of the living God, a Christian, such a wonderful thing, beloved. Is that when you have need of it, you must handle your own life as long as you can. God loves can-do type people. Get it done. And then when you can't, he takes over. That's why we always win. That's why we're well liked by everyone, and that's why we're blessed. That's why we're the superpower of superpowers in this generation. It didn't just happen. When you reach your hand in your pocket and pull out a coin and it says, "In God we trust," there's a reason for it. Why? Well, because we do trust in God. Because God takes care of us. God blesses us. God blesses America, and God blesses the world through America. Why? Because through Abraham, that is the children that went north over the Caucasus Mountains, and later were called Caucasians, settled Europe, and many of them later migrating to the Americas. God said, your offspring are going to become as numerous as the dust. Count them. Where are they today? Open your eyes. Feast upon the very hand of God and his marvelous, wonderful works around the world, as those Christian nations are a blessing to all they come in contact with, just making friends and influencing people. But this is the reason that Melchizedek went out to meet him. We'll pick it up in the next lecture. Don't miss it. All right, bless your heart. You listen a moment. Won't you